You may not share, but yeah.
Okay, everyone, we've got a full house for the first time in a long time, and it is officially 5:30, so I'm going to call this meeting of the Marion County Board of Education to order. I'm going to invite our student ambassadors, because they're back too, to come forward and lead our Pledge of Allegiance and our moment of silence, if they would. Everybody stand, and here's the flag in the back.
Attention, salute pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And since we've got student ambassadors, ladies, I'm going to ask you all to introduce yourselves, introduce your parents, and tell us what's going on at school.
Right. Hi, my name is Mandy Courtwright. I'm a junior in Marion County High School. My parents are Jennifer and David Courtwright. And something really exciting we have going on at the high school right now is that a group of about 15 juniors have started working on our GSP applications. They're not due until December, but it is quite a tedious process. So we're really excited to have Ms. Paula helping us. She's really good at getting us where we need to be. So we thank her for that. Kayla?
I'm Kayla Lancaster. My parents are Rob and Leah Lancaster. And one thing that actually happened today is we had a group of about 6 student ambassadors travel to West Marion Elementary and talk to their little paid student ambassadors about what our experience is like and how they can use their skills to help better their school. And
A new program we have going on at the high school right now is show choir. It's led by our art teacher, Miss Mattingly. And what we have been working on is this Friday at the football game, we're going to be singing the national anthem. So we would love if you all would come out and watch.
Awesome. And Amira, could you introduce yourself?
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm Amira Bowman. My parents are Mickey Joe and Jeremy Bowman.
The last thing I have is that our beta war games are planned for November 20th. And essentially what that is our way to give back to the community that supports us. So all the students that participate, they pay a fee when they come in. All those proceeds we're deciding to donate to frontline workers this year to show them some appreciation for the very tough year that we've had for the past year and a half.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. It's so lovely to have you back.
We just want to thank the board for always supporting student ambassadors and for letting us have this opportunity to speak in front of everyone.
Definitely. I know it's an invaluable program and we love having you guys as representatives, not only at the high school and the elementary schools and the middle schools, but also in our community. So thank you all for participating and serving in this way. We appreciate it. The next item on our agenda is item 3, and I need a motion on that, please.
make a motion to consider approval to amend the agenda.
Any questions? Just all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 4 comments, and I'm gonna recognize and start with the people who signed up ahead of time, if that's okay. So, Mr. Larry McCauley, if you would come forward, and Amanda, do you want to speak with him or separately? I know you guys are on the same topic.
With him, and I'm just gonna follow if he needs me to.
Perfect, thank you.
Just a little bit of literature on athletics and academics, how things kind of tie together. Here we go.
Floor is yours.
All right.
Oh, Mr. McCauley, just a reminder, you have 5 minutes.
Okay. I'm Larry McCauley of Marion County in West Marion. What we're here today is to start the talks of an athletic facility for all sports at the high school. Something that we feel will be very beneficial for the academics and athletics as we move forward. Something I think we've needed for quite a while. We're just kind of stagnant in our athletic programs, it seems, across the board from youth all the way up. The numbers are starting to drop. And, you know, our big thing is we need to get kids some social skills again. All they do is stay on their phones. They don't get out. They don't mingle with other kids. That is a time that they can, you know, get together, learn each other, you know, how to communicate. And, you know, I think that's very important going forward. Couple of the things that I think are necessary too, we don't have locker rooms for these kids to go to. They're changing in the parking lots, they're changing in the bathrooms, just a lot of stuff that doesn't need to happen this day and time. That's, you know, some of the highlights. There is a facility at the city park that they can go do a little bit of stuff at, but then you're putting the liability of kids or driving kids to the other facility, where we could have it here on the premises. We're not having kids leave with other kids taking a chance of getting hurt. You know, it helps promote school growth too. Anytime you've got sporting events, you've got other kids that come participate. And it, you know, it really kind of helps make the community feel better. And I've talked to teachers and facility people, and they'll tell you that whenever the athletics are going good, the hallways they just feel better about themselves. You know, the kids are more talkative. You know, it's just a good experience for everybody. And, you know, those are some of the things that we wanted to touch on. You know, and you've also got the athletic scholarship side of it also. You know, sometimes we just look at just academics as the only way of getting higher education. Myself, I was fortunate enough, I had an athletic scholarship, and in doing so, I did not do drugs because of that. I was afraid I'd lose my scholarship. I showed up to class every day because if I didn't get my scholarship money. And, you know, I think it's important that we look at it as not a 4-letter word, athletics, as a way of getting a higher education. And in building this facility, I feel like it'll help generate a few more scholarships and move things in the right direction. That's basically all I've got.
Thank you. Amanda, did you want
I just would, I think the benefit of adding an indoor facility for our athletics programs, our kids are at a disadvantage a lot of times. Like, for instance, we just competed in the district soccer tournament a week prior. So we played Taylor County in the championship game. And they were able to practice that week prior because they have a turf field and they have other options for indoor facilities. Whereas we don't really have that ability here for indoor facilities if we have rain or poor weather conditions. I think that opens up the doors to additional practice times and different things like Larry touched on. You're not having seniors transporting freshmen to the park. The park has been great to work with, but it is smaller. It is a scheduling issue. And then you've got the transportation and the safety issue getting, you know, say I have a senior and she's transporting freshmen and sophomores. If she was to get in a wreck, what kind of liability is that for us, for the school, for whoever? Those type of things I think are logistical issues. And if we did an indoor facility, all sports could use it.
You know, it would be a facility that baseball, softball, soccer, football, tennis, anybody could come into and use. It opens up options for additional practice times, and it also levels the playing field for the other counties that we play in sports. And kind of brings us back up to a competitive level with them and helps us with that advantage. And that's just really what I wanted to add. And then two, the lifelong benefits of being, of participating in athletics. Most of your athletes have higher GPAs than a lot of your non-athletic students, just because they're held to a higher standard by their coaches. And I know I remember all of my coaches and what impact they had on me. So I think that it's very important in building those practices and stuff for, especially when we've been in the middle of a pandemic, where we've seen that comorbidities, that all kinds of obesity and all those type of issues are, you know, we need to try to alleviate that as much as we can. And athletics help our students build those good habits and maintain their health and wellness throughout life. So I think that's something we do need to prioritize and put our children at a better advantage to be competitive and then to build those lifelong health benefits. So that's.
Next is Kenita Pritchett.
Good evening, thank you guys for seeing me. My concern is the school bus issue. Right now, me and my two new students live on Kelch Lane. If you know where that's at, that's off of Hunley Drive, or Hunley Lane. Right now, we're being told that my students are not serviceable for transportation because the road is not county adopted. FedEx drives down the road. There's even mail that comes down the road. And what my question is why is it that the school bus can't come down to the end of Kelch Lane and Lakeland Drive to pick up students? My son's ADHD. He has sensory perception issues. My 14-year-old cannot walk an eighth of a mile to Hunley Lane where there's snakes and possibly coyotes running around at 6:30 in the morning to catch a bus with my 6-year-old. So how do we fix this problem?
Well, I can say I used to live on Kelch Lane. I used to live at 193 Kelch Lane. And it is a small little road. I know that garbage pickup does not come to the end of
No.
Kelch Lane, correct?
No,
So you all have to transport your trash to the end of Kelch Lane in order for it to be picked up by the
Correct.
county. So this is something that we can absolutely look at. But it is one of those things where we also have to look at, does a bus have the ability to make a turnabout at the end of Lakeland Drive?
there is a whole roundabout at the end of Lakeland Drive.
Right, is it paved?
No,
So there are things that we have to look at there for certain,
Right,
and
right.
we will. I don't know what the solution is for it right at this very moment. It may be an opportunity to have a conversation with the county about making that a county recognized road and then
right,
going
they say
from
that
there.
we have to do all kinds of maintenance for that. I've already called them. I've also spoke with your bus garage. He was supposed to have gotten back with me before fall break about a smaller bus being able to pick up my two children actually at the top of my hill, because you can, FedEx goes in there all the time. I mean, all the time. We order through FedEx constantly. We are at the end of Kelch Lane, at the old Kelch farm on the lake. And I'm not asking them to come down to the house. My kids can go up to the mailbox. I'll drive them to the mailbox. I might have to have surgery on my foot. I was in a car accident and just got out of the boot today. And it's awful, but my kids had tardies because I had a broken foot and the bus would not come get me.
So it's something that we'll absolutely look at, and we'll talk with our transportation manager about getting the smaller bus to go out there. I do know that like I said, I used to live right at the very end, right before you get to Lakeland Drive, so I understand
But
what
it
a
seems
challenging
like
road is.
the bus garage did not want to work with anything. So that's why I called you guys to come
Sure.
here and discuss it.
We appreciate
And
it.
it's not just me, there's other kids. There's a lot of other kids on Lakeland Drive. The congestion at the elementary school is awful in the mornings. It takes me 15 minutes to get through in the morning. I might make sure I'm late so I don't have to sit there for 15 minutes on the road. And it's all because of the buses not going out to the rural areas. Other counties, their rural areas are bust. Taylor County has a lot of dirt roads that are bust. What's the difference?
Well, I know that our buses do service a lot of the rural areas out in Gravel Switch and lots of different places like that. And I also know that some of the congestion at the elementary school in the mornings is also for parents who choose to drop their children off. I'm one of those.
Oh, I know, I drive them off every morning.
So it's absolutely an issue that we'll continue to look at for sure, and there are conversations that we have to have. So I appreciate you coming. I just wanted you to be aware. I recognize the issue presented by your address, and we can certainly talk about ways to fix that.
Awesome, thank you so much.
Is this a private drive? Or is this?
No, there's multiple people that live on Phelps Lane. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 people past the mailbox.
And one thing we'll have to look at also is talking with the county.
Right.
County would be the one that would have to make it.
Yeah, I spoke with the county already, and they said that we have to bring it up to county standards before it can be adopted. As a whole, in that area, the community has to do it themselves. They don't understand why people that didn't make the road are responsible to make the road.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I make a recommendation, even though it's not official. If you would permit myself and Mr. Abel to take charge of this, Mr. President. We will have, I'm not gonna say a solution that will always guarantee happiness to everybody, but you'll at least know why.
Right, that's all I'm asking is why.
Okay. Well, if you'll be patient with us again.
Oh, very much so.
We'll take care of that for yourself.
I greatly appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Next, Ms. Clark, I think you're here just to answer any potential questions on the grant application. So if it's okay, we'll wait until that application comes up and you're available. If they do. Next is Terry Earshak. And I know that you've been here before, so it'll be held for 5 minutes.
Yeah, you're good. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Terry Earcheck. So I'm going to speak again about the mask mandate. I brought to you all kinds of data in August about the dangers of masks and forced vaccinations. And although we're not at forced vaccinations yet, we're trying to get our teachers $100 to, get a vaccination. And at this point in time, if they haven't gotten it, they don't want it, and there's a reason. I can send you a copy of the findings that I did all the research on. Some of you I did send it to because you asked me to. But I want to know, first of all, from you, what scientific data that you reviewed to take the constitutional rights away from our children, the sovereign rights away from the parents and the children to force masks, because they are the least affected group and they are the most punished. So I want to know why first.
Why we enacted a mask mandate?
Yes.
Well, I'm not going to speak for anybody else up here, but I took the recommendations that were available to us and made a decision that I felt was appropriate in order to guarantee the safe and in-person instruction for our students.
Okay.
And staff. Yes.
So the health department, CDC, again, they're all just advisory committees. That's it. They don't make laws, they can't make mandates. So the last time I checked, each of your positions and stipends and any of your medical insurance that you are provided through here is paid for by the taxpayers. And from what I can tell from hand days, from the Kentucky games, from most of the out and about activity, people don't want the masks. They don't have them on their children. When they go out, they're happy and they're having fun. Fear causes you to have a lot of problems. It just does. It's a scientific fact. But again, as a school board, you are trying to say that this mask is going to protect me. It's going to keep me from getting virus. That is considered a medical apparatus, which in the Nuremberg Code, it states that you must have consent to have a medical apparatus on somebody. I have given consent to the nurse for what she can you for my child. I didn't receive consent to put a mask on him. I think that masking, quarantining healthy people It's been proven that, you know, asymptomatic spread is not the trigger for most of these things. So if a person isn't exhibiting signs, I'm not saying they're chugging out diseases. But a lot of these swabs are not safe to be putting up our children's noses. And like if you look at our Facebook pages with the teachers, they post pictures of the leveling up and things like that. These kids are not happy. They are sad. You can, you know, under a mask, you obviously can't see, but you can tell in their eyes if they're happy or not. I can know when my son's happy or not by his eyes. And these kids do not look happy. They're just not. Dentists are starting to see for oral hygiene issues. Therapists are starting to see depression issues with these young kids because of the propaganda that our government has said that if you hug grandma, you're gonna kill her. If you hug mom, you're gonna kill her. That is terrible to do to our children. Y'all said that whenever the county got to a certain like red, you know, under red, then you would remove the mask possibly. According to what the red status is, that's 25 people in 100,000. It means that under 5 people here have to have COVID in order for all this to go away. This disease is less problematic than the flu, and we never had this before. So I did bacteria cultures of some masks there in front of you. This is what we're putting our children through. There was a group of parents in Florida. They actually sent theirs out for testing. I'm almost done, so. Just bear with me.
You're at your 5 minutes, actually.
She can have 5 minutes.
No, we won't do that again. We did that the last time, so
Okay.
go ahead and finish up.
Yeah.
please, quickly.
But these masks that were sent out, they found 11 different dangerous pathogens on masks, including strep, tuberculosis, meningitis, polyphagia, coli, Lyme disease, diphtheria, Legionnaire's disease. From these ones that I have here, in comparing the slides, there's strep, tuberculosis, E. coli, Legionnaire's disease, strep, staph, sepsis, and mold. And that was just 10 masks.
Thank you.
So I'm asking you to consider.
Lorna Steele?
Well, I'm for not for wearing the mask or having the choice of either way, whichever way the parent or child wants to go. Because my children I have 3 children in school, 1 in Night Academy and 2 in the high school. They're straight A's to AB students, and they get very discouraged every other week if they're quarantined. They have not ever been sick, and they get quarantined because of someone else in the room. And they get very discouraged about getting their homework done. If they miss school, it's very hard on them, very stressful. And you know, I think everybody has been brainwashed as far as the effectiveness of this mask. It's not doing it any good. I have been in the face of people literally from day one at my job, just like healthcare workers. You know, every single healthcare worker has not been sick, every single one, even though they've been in the face of it. And I've been in the face of it myself. I work at Walmart. Most of you probably know. And people are in my face, literally, every single day, several times a day. I actually saw a lady that was leaving with her daughter today from school to be quarantined. Guess where she was at today, right after school? Walmart with her quarantined daughter. My daughter is at home by herself. But I guarantee there's more. There's more than just that parent that brings their kid to Walmart or wherever else they want to go when they're supposed to be quarantined, because either she doesn't believe the situation or doesn't care. I don't know. But, you know, it's been in my face right here, even without a mask at work, and I haven't gotten sick. I think the masks are basically useless myself. But if a person wants to choose to wear one, that's great. That's their choice. It should be their choice. what I feel like. And I think every parent should have the right to decide that. That's all.
All right, that is everyone I have signed up to speak. Would you all mind
I
coming?
didn't get this on. I got it late.
There you go. You want to put your name,
Yes, ma'am.
information down? Ms. Marion?
So I came today to address the max issue as well and to go over some of my concerns. So it's not that I don't believe COVID's real, and it's affecting people differently. I agree with some of the statements made before that it doesn't necessarily have to be, get rid of the mask mandates altogether. Make it a recommendation. That way parents that feel unsafe sending their kids to in school without a mask have that option. Parents who do not wish to mask their children have that option, because I birthed my children. Me and my husband should be the only ones making any kind of medical recommendation or medical decisions for those children, not anybody else. And I feel like you all would feel the same way when in regards to your children, grandchildren, or whoever. You all feel what's best for your kids, your grandkids. So I feel like that should be a recommendation so that every person has that option to make their own assessment and what they feel is right, what they feel is safe for their own family. I see many of you here have the ponchi mask on, which is typically what you see most people wearing because it's most comfortable. People like them. Went and bought a pack for my kids because they're required to have them for school. Plain as day on the tag, it says does not filter air. So please tell me how that is effective, because you said yourself, you felt that that was the right thing to do to implement that mask mandate to guarantee safety. You cannot guarantee that safety. You cannot guarantee that. Those masks don't guarantee that. That's might be a barrier, but it's been proven. I can go over the science. You all know the science. It's been read to you. You've read it yourself, everything else. But it's there plain as day, stating it does not filter air. So how is it going to filter a virus? Also, these kids, my children are in elementary school, kindergarten. She's learning to enunciate words. Children already have an issue with speech and learning to enunciate. How is my child supposed to learn how to enunciate those words and those letters without seeing a teacher's face and mouth? I mean, they can't. They can't see each other's faces. You can sit next to each other like you are here in a classroom and you are required to wear a mask, but they sit like this in a cafeteria right next to each other without a mask, and it's totally fine. So we can't get you unless you're sitting at a desk or sitting down at a restaurant. You don't have to wear a mask. So why is it required for students to wear them in the classroom? You all have that choice whenever you go out. You have that freedom. Like she said, the UK games, the Emmys, everybody else, did you see one mask being worn? No. So why is it okay for grown adults to make that choice for themselves and to go out to these big events and it'd be totally fine? Nobody raises an eyebrow. But these kids don't have a voice. We are their voice. We are their parents. We should get to make that decision for them, and it should be an option, not a requirement. My child is in the 5th grade and has depression over these masks and having to deal with it daily. It's a frustration that these parents have to deal with daily.
It's child abuse.
It is. It should be a recommendation, not a requirement. That way it covers y'all's asses if y'all want to put it out there and say, you know what, I did what I felt was right, and I want to protect these kids. Okay, it's recommended. That way it covers you and it covers the parents that choose not to. And thank you, Joey, for standing up, because I've reached out to several of you and I feel like you were one that has stood up for these kids. So I just want to throw that out there. But that's all I have to say.
Okay, and I think one of you ladies mentioned that it's something that we have said we will continue to look at, and we will continue to look at it and continue to identify the best timing for us to change.
Do we not take a vote right now for everybody's here?
No, We cannot. But they-
What's preventing from the vote?
Well, there's information to consider, number one, and it's just not on the agenda. And so with a topic that specific and that important, number one, you're gonna want your board members to be educated and informed about what is the best option to take. And number two, we want to give as many people the opportunity to weigh in like you've had here tonight. I thank you all for attending, and it's an issue that we'll continue to consider. Next item on the agenda is item 4B, and that is the introduction of our interim superintendent, Mr. Boyd Randolph. We appreciate Mr. Randolph being here tonight. He comes to us formerly from Somerset Independent and rolls with the CASA and any number of other organizations. So Mr. Randolph, if you'd like to introduce yourself to everyone here. And
I've tried to, when it's convenient, without interrupting the work too much, I've tried to get around to meet most of the district staff that I could. But as Mrs. Truitt just mentioned, my name is Boyd Randolph. I do come, I guess my most recent, I'll call it real job, was superintendent at the Somerset School District. And since then, though I did work for KASA for 4.5 years, primarily working on special projects districts and superintendents, school boards may have needs for, as well as training for all levels of administration, from the lowest ranking in schools all the way to school board. I'm looking forward to getting a chance to be part of Marion County progress. And if you'll be patient with me, I promise you I'll work just as hard as I possibly can.
thank you very much. The next item on the agenda is our finance report. Mr. Spalding. And if somebody would mind to open that back door there, just to make sure that it is truly an open meeting to the public. That'd be great. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Looking at the August financials, you will see the standouts there, the big one, unchanged or unfavorable rather of 104% is our property tax. It's just a timing issue. We had receipts in September and anticipate we're going to start, it's at season, so we're going to start seeing a lot more revenue come in on that. Motor vehicle tax, again, is just to do with timing. We are favorable in utility tax, but $16,000. And then just a timing issue in the Medicaid reimbursement, wait for that first quarter payment coming on that. So expenses for August of 2020 were 2.2, and these were 2.272. So if you remember, we were not in school last year in person, so we got some expenses up. We got fuel and stuff like that going in our funds. I'm sorry, that's on revenue. We're going to get to that. So our receipts are up over this more of a timing issue as well. On to expenditures are up as well due to school. You'll see our instructional, we did give a nice raise this year, so that's going to be a constant trend. The 2,100 is due to some medical supplies that were last year bought from general fund, but later coded to Essers, so that'll catch up next month. And fund operations and student transportation are both up what they did have students in the facility. We've already used about $19,000 more in fuel this year than we did last year too. That's going to be a common trend. Expenditures this year 1.6 versus 1.4 last year. Same month. So any questions on the financials? And I'll be sending you all September's probably tomorrow. Yes, ma'am.
I would like to, if we way possible, see if we can get a meeting together and go over financials better, where I better understand
Sure.
where our money is coming and going. I had a lot of questions, but I think I'll just save it for me when we
If
get
you
together.
want to email me those, I can work on those too prior to the meeting, and whether that'll help.
Or am I just?
Sure, that's fine. So whatever's best for suits.
I don't know how anybody else feels, but I just, there's a lot to this. that
Absolutely.
I don't understand.
I don't disagree
and I
with you
wanna
at all.
make Sure we get the money
Sure.
where it needs to go.
It is.
So.
So Howard, don't you email that work on that? We come and go over how, whatever works best for you or the board. And another couple of tidbits, biggie is construction update. We're getting close. The bid is going out to American High School project. possibly even today. We're gonna open those on November the 10th. So that'll be, I think the architects, shared with you last time, they'll take those back to their office, do a lot of review, check, it's a big project, and they'll make a recommendation to you all at the December meeting to award a contract. Calvary and Elementary, the site surveys are almost complete there. We're starting to schedule some programming meetings to start to kick off of those two projects. Glasscock and West Marion, we're proposing to do a performance contract with CPA Energy Solutions. They have entered the district or fall work. They're starting their field observations. They're going to put that out to bid around November the 7th week. They'll be up for 2 to 3 weeks. And they'll also have hopefully a recommendation for you on the December meeting. The big thing on that, they want to get done, that after you all approve it, they'll go to PD for approval, and then we can order equipment. You know, about 12-week lead time on equipment. So we want to get that ordered early January as possible to get it here to ensure we can start as soon as school gets out of May. Any questions on construction or anything?
Marion County High School, we're still on target or on schedule to sell bonds in January. Is that
That's
right?
correct. Well, actually, you know, late December, early
Late
January, we got to make the February date
Yes.
for that problem to expire, about $600,000 of the life of the loan.
Next step on after our site surveys on the elementary schools.
So we'll start doing some programming. We'll meet with architects, get the high level stuff going, and then we'll start diving in and get some details.
Are there committees or anything that we need?
Yes, there'll be some folks in this district meeting with, they'll bring it back to you all for some reviews, and things like that, so you'll get some share.
Would you repeat that?
Will be like a committee or anything like that, that the architect will meet with as far as the design, or I guess, for example, at Calvary, there was discussion of extra entrance being brought in.
Correct.
And that might be something we want to talk with our county about.
On Cemetery Church Road?
Yes, correct. And that's something that I think Larry Boyle, I'm not Larry Boyle's the magistrate out there. And that's something that the county has looked at paying for, and possibly even the state, depending on the state entrance out there. So I didn't know
That's correct.
what conversations or who might need to be involved.
Well,
in that.
what we'll do, we'll form a basic committee. I think basic, I don't mean that pejorative fashion, but we'll form a base of people on the committee. And things such as that may need to invite people to come and advise people with specialty contributions like county road access and things such as that. But yes, we'll have a group to be as well informed as possible.
Last thing is the audit update for near completion of our audit. TDE requires those to be submitted by November 15th. So we're great shape on that. Potentially the white company will be here either the November, if not the December board meeting to present that for the audit to you guys.
Scott, I'm sorry, what was the date, the November date on the West Marion and Glasscock? Project 7?
They're hoping to send the bids out around November the 7th or so. It's the target, they'll be out for 2 to 3 weeks. That's a little different process than the traditional project. They do all that on our behalf, so they'll reach out to 2 or 3 different manufacturers, all the equipment, things like that, get the price together, break it here in December.
And you said it's a 12-week lead time on that?
Yes, roughly right now, things are back.
Yeah.
The construction will not
Sure.
begin until after school.
Correct. So we want to get it going on as quick as possible, and make sure we can start it as soon as school gets out.
It has to be tomorrow secured.
Absolutely.
Other questions for Scott?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next item on the agenda is the data presentation, Ms. Badgett.
All right, I've got some people that are gonna share what you're about to see is the best presentation, I think, because all of my principals are here and they are ready. They just love me because I give them 5 minutes, okay? So I was thankful, so we're gonna take 5 minutes, but we're gonna talk about the district level, and then we're gonna give the principals an opportunity to share some data. We've got K-Prep data, we've been using a lot of data, we've been in a pandemic, so we thought it's time. You know, they're doing the hard work at the schools, every day with the teachers, so they should present, and you'll see their successes and their areas that they want to work on in next step. So for Marion County, we just wanted to remind the board that we have a multitude of places that we collect data from. We use K-Prep, we use Brigance, we changed, remember this year, we moved from MAP to iReady. We're seeing a lot of success and hearing a lot of good things. We have Otis, this is our data platform that the board several years ago, got on board with us, and we'll talk a little bit about that. And then we have Tariffs Metrics data, which is our social and emotional data that we collect. So next. All right, Ms. Sharp, you want to start with Tariffs Metrics, Megan?
Yes, so if you will look with success, if you look at the Tariffs Metrics data, you'll see that in the spring of 2021, our district took the assessment, and I either get a mask or glasses. I cannot get both. So I don't know. Okay, I'll keep my mask on, but I can't see that far. But I can see color, and what I just want to point out is that in the spring, this number, so we had 49% that were at risk or moderate concern. And then this fall, we had 47% that were at risk, moderate concern, which took our satisfactory and optimal up. What Tariffs Metrics measures is, it's a resiliency survey that looks at hope and grit and resilience and leadership and school satisfaction and those types of things. So it covers a multitude of areas, and we had really good turnout this time. Our principals did a great job making sure those students were taking that assessment, and we're pleased with that.
All right, and then we have done, no, not yet, I'm sorry. We have, again, on our successes, we do feel like that social and emotional curriculum and that work we've done has really set us aside. We've been doing it a long time, and we want to continue that. And then the change from MAP to iReady, I think the one I want to bring to the board is that these individualized pathways that students are getting are very prescriptive and really addressing any specific learning loss or any skill deficits, so that the students are going to spend that time, you know, on the actual things that they need. So I think that's been the best. And then the bar on the bottom, what I've put there for you is just a snippet, and that's in the Otis platform. And what I wanted to share with the board that at any time, if you have questions for us about something very specific, we get graphs and data from any of the platforms we bought. We all know we bought quite a few, but we can delve down into any platform. I can compare it to any, and those bar graphs are actually interactive. So I click on it and I can tell you the exact students, what they scored. I can put them into a group if we want to identify something else in the principals. So that's kind of the exciting part for us as we move forward. It's just the availability and how much interactive things can happen in comparison, so that we don't just look at one source of data, because we all know one source. You know, if a student didn't feel well that day, then they didn't do very well. That's not the only source. We have that ability. So you can go to the next. Now we're going to talk about our areas of concern, and Ms. Murphy's going to start off.
As we know, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but this year's test, we had a year when COVID first started that we did not K-Prep test. But this previous year we did, and so it was not our typical year of testing, so to speak. The test was shortened, so rather being hours long, it was more like 60 minutes, and it was on the new and old standards. So the state did not feel it was just a temperature gauge at that moment in time where our kids were. So when you start looking at the numbers, we know they're not great. I mean, it is what it is. Data tells you and doesn't lie. But other things to consider, our participation rate. I would love to commend our principals and our counselors trying to get our students that were distance learners. They actually came in, so our participation rate was on the charts compared to the state. Other things to consider is this will set the tone for accountability this upcoming year. We cannot compare this year to any other year because of what we've been through and then just the nature of that test at that moment in time. So as Shelley gets ready to explain what you see up here, just take those things into consideration. We know we're below in some areas, but at the same time, we know we have work to do.
And so on the top here, what you can see, it might not be as clear, but the maroon is our district percent of proficient and distinguished students, and they're compared with the state in the gray. So what we see is that, you know, we don't have a big discrepancy. This was a statewide issue, but do we want more than 50 to 60% of our students being at proficient and distinguished? Well, yes, we do. You know, so that's where we're saying is that we're not making excuses, but it was a different year. So we know where we are. You know, this is one piece of data. Go back to the other slide. We can compare that to the iReady, Lexia, all of those other pieces. So we're working on it, but I do think it's important for us to note that, we weren't far from, we didn't lose any more or less than the state. It's kind of that overall general thing. All right, and our last slide, what are we gonna do, next steps?
So the multi-tiered system of supports process, we had started that last year with the needs assessment toward the end of the year with our schools. And one of the things that was identified during that, and what that assessment looked at, it looked at core curriculum, interventions, what we're doing, if a student doesn't know the material, that kind of thing. It also looks at behavioral data, attendance, office discipline referrals, social, emotional, et cetera. So one of the things that we did identify when that was conducted was a need for consistent tier 1 reading instruction, core instruction. And then the other piece is to continue to work on our social and emotional learning. That also includes our work with our mental health agencies that we partner with and the services that our students receive through that.
And we're going to continue to work. We have a partnership with the Southern Regional Education Board, and Ms. Murphy is doing a lot in the high schools and working on that master schedule, providing those opportunities, potentially moving to that career academies, our portrait of a graduate, and linking those pieces together and using common language. Really, really important. And then that last piece for us, we purchased a lot of programs through Essers for several years so that people could really delve into a program, stay with it, and then decide, is this the program we want? So that fidelity of our programming and the streamlining of that, because after a while, if it's not benefiting us, then we want to trash it. We'll treasure what we love and we'll trash what's not. But we've given the opportunity for not to say, do I get that next year? Do I delve into it? We have a lot of professional work. All right, so next you're going to see, I think, Mr. Mattingly.
One last thing, sorry. Individual school reports for pay prep will be sent home on Monday for parents to be on the lookout for that. It won't say pay prep, they have changed the name, and it will say Kentucky Summative Assessment. It's the same thing that they have just gone ahead and changed the name on these reports for the year.
Good evening. Thank you all for allowing us to have the opportunity to kind of showcase our success and then talk about the things we need to work on. And then, of course, next step, that's the flow that we're going with. So if we could hit the next slide. Ms. Magic kind of referred to several programs that we are blessed to have in this district. I think we're at a good point with programs. I know at the elementary level, we have a lot of tools in our toolbox, and we're very thankful and blessed to have those. I know we mentioned iReady, that's our new diagnostic. We have Zern, that's our primary math instruction that all our elementary uses. Our Lexia core reading, that's now all our elementary schools use that. For GANS, of course, preschool, and then Tariffs Metrics. Ms. Sharp, Dr. Sharp talked about that, and of course, Achieve 3000, that's a reading curriculum. So we have lots of tools in our toolbox to try to move our kids as much as possible. Of course, we know there's lots of gaps, especially with the year we had last year, but I feel like we have the tools that we need to get them caught up and to accelerate their learning and get them where they need to be. So we're very thankful for that. Next slide, please. Showcasing success. We focus whenever we're putting this slideshow together, just basically on our iReady. That's we did a diagnostic at the beginning of the year just to kind of see where our kids were. I think I counted, we had around 14 weeks last year where we were in person, 14 or 15 weeks. So that's not even half the school year. So we kind of wanted to see where our kids at. The good thing about iReady, I'll get closer here because my eyesight's pretty well, but it's still pretty small. So the good news was it wasn't as bad as we thought. So we were like, oh, kind of a sigh of relief. We still don't want to see red and yellow, but we were very satisfied with what the green we saw. So basically what the green means is that they're emerging right on the cusp or they're on grade level. Okay, and of course, the yellow is 2 grade levels below and the red is 3 or more grade levels. So we thought that was pretty good from where we were at. So we felt hopeful. And so in that iReady program, so far I really like it because it's simple to understand it. It kind of lays it out there. Okay, they're on grade level, they're not on grade level, and here's a pathway to get that gap closed. So that's, so I know West Marion and I know the other elementary schools like already, but of course we know that students, it's not about academics. That's a big chunk of it, but the social emotional learning piece is a big component of that too. And of course, we've incorporated Tariffs Metrics, and we were, very satisfied with what that come up with. Of course, the 4 categories that Dr. Sharp referenced to: the global satisfaction, the positive school experience, hope, and social connections. For the most part, the majority of our students fell in those satisfactory or optimal categories. If they were at risk, it was in the single digits or just like right at 11%. And what we were able to do is use our interventionists, myself, counselors, talk with those kids and kind of discuss, okay, what's going on, and kind of intervene there and bridge that gap and see if there's anything we can do, ways we can intervene. So that's one way we like Tariffs Metrics. So basically, we did see an improvement from spring, improvement from the spring semester, and a 17% improvement from the fall semester 2020. So we did see an improvement, and only 2% of our students are classified in the at-risk category. So from an SEL perspective and from an iReady perspective, we were, okay, we can do this. We're good. I feel like we got some hope going forward, and we can get these kids where we need to be. But there's always things we can work on. So next slide, please. Some areas of concern, kind of what iReady does is that it kind of shows you where the kids are when they get to the different grade levels. And of course, kindergarten, it's kind of where, we all just assume they're ready for kindergarten because they hadn't took the diagnostic yet. So, but basically, as we went through this, we saw an immediate concern with 2nd and 3rd grade. That's kind of our focus for this year is to try to get those 2nd and 3rd grade up a little bit. Okay. And I think it says down there 53 and 51% of our 2nd and 3rd grade are on grade level. So that's concerning. That's barely over half. That's not acceptable. So our goal is to obviously get them up in the 75 to, ideally 100% range. So that's our goal. And then one of the things we're doing one of the things we didn't mention on the first slide is that we're using a program called Foundations, because what we're finding is that these kids with phonics is a weak area. That's those sounds, those blends, just that basic elements of reading, it was lacking. So we incorporated a program starting in kindergarten, Foundations, went to 1st grade last year. This year we're going to 2nd grade, so it's K1, 2, and then next year we're going into 3rd grade. So we're hoping that can make these bars come closer to, 4th and 5th, and even hopefully kindergarten and 1st. So that's kind of what we're looking at for Foundations. Or for our students. And of course, we kind of highlighted some graphs there. Too much red. It's too much red. That's not acceptable. And that's what I'm hoping. I think I'm a pretty optimistic person. And I think one of the best things, one of the best tools we have is that we're in school and that we're here. I think we missed 2 days all semester. And I think our biggest weapon, our biggest way to get these kids back is to stay in school and them be in school, and we've already seen huge dividends from having pretty much a full first 9 weeks. I think the first 9 weeks ends tomorrow. So we're very hopeful that because we have them in here, we can dig down and rise up. That's what we're hoping to do. How are we going to do it? Next steps. Next slide. Next slide for next steps. I was about to beat on it, but then I didn't want to break this nice piece of equipment. So the next step may be paying for this. I think that one of the biggest things is strong instruction. Having the kids there, the teachers want the students there, the students want to be there, the parents want them there. And because we have them there, we can work our magic. I think that's one of the things we talk about. They're here, let's do our thing. And that's with collaborating amongst grade levels. That's doing those interventions, targeting those groups that need help, and really digging down and just working with those kids, just doing the hard work. For SEL, our counselor has had teachers identified students in different areas, and we're working with small groups. Some of our related arts teachers are working with just 4 or 5 students at a time so they can really meet the needs of those kids. Some of our unsung heroes are some of our retired teachers that are coming back 2, 3, 4 times during the week as daytime waiver, and working with those kids, working with small groups, building those relationships, and just offering that assistance. So those are some of our unsung heroes. And then, of course, for science and social studies, we're trying to beef those up too, and we've got some good resources for them. Programs, I mentioned it earlier, we are program rich. And as Ms. Badgett said, we're going to use these programs for 3 or 4 years. And if they're good, let's keep rocking with them. If they're not, well, then let's look at something else. But I really think the programs we have are solid and that they're going to reap good benefits. So I mentioned earlier, foundations, we're going to do K2 for phonetics. Lexia, we're focused on K3 for reading. Zern is school-wide for math. Achieve is grades 3 through 5, and that's a personalized reading program. It focuses on reading at their level, and they can advance to that. And then Eureka is with Zern. Those two are tied together. Staff, just strong PLCs. I believe in meeting with those grade level teams and just really digging down the data and coming up with solutions and working together. Data analysis is part of those PLCs, PD, setting goals. And I think one of the biggest things is that we need to celebrate. Okay, and I'll give an example. We incorporated Lexia this year. And for some of these kids, they have never received a certificate or never been recognized. And I can't tell you how excited these little kids who never got a certificate, when they complete level 1 on Lexia and they get a certificate, it's like the biggest thing ever. And it motivates them to keep trying. So I think celebrating and just celebrating growth, not necessarily if you got novice, apprentice, distinguished, or proficient distinguished, but you grew. You may still be novice, but you went up in points. You went up 30 points, or you may went from a novice to apprentice. Celebrating those small victories, I think, is key, and it makes the kids excited, makes the kids root for each other, and I think we can do all that, and I think we'll pay great dividends. So we're excited. We're excited to be back in school. And we're going to have a great year. We've had a great year thus far, and we're going to rock and roll and do great things. So.
I'm nervous. Hi, guys. I don't think I've ever had the pleasure of being in front of you before. I'm Paige Madison. I'm the principal of Marion County Middle School. I'm excited to be here. I'm a little nervous, so please give me some grace, okay, as I've never presented to a board, maybe ever. So here we go. So we look at multiple points of data, and I'll just piggyback off with what Mr. Marion was saying, to assess our students. And you'll see our nights rising theme throughout my presentation. Our vision is learning and growing for a better tomorrow because nights rise together. So our focus is how do we rise socially, emotionally, academically? How are we going to be the best version of ourselves? And so we look at the whole child and assess the whole child through those formative classroom assessments, through iReady, through RTI, Tariffs Metrics, K-Prep. We're spending a lot of focus on PLCs this year. We changed from house plannings, and I don't know if all of you are familiar with the house system, but those different teams that students are in, we changed, instead of planning, teachers planning by houses, they're doing content planning, because we really feel like big focus on instruction this year that the PLC groups needed as much time to collaborate and discuss academics as possible and look at the data and how to inform their instruction and move forward. So you can go to the next slide. Okay, so how our nights are rising. This is one of the things that we are proudest of because last year was an extraordinarily difficult year. I picked one heck of a year to be first year principal. But our focus, of course, is always academics and student achievement, but with being out of school so much and students feeling detached and maybe feeling isolated, we wanted to make sure that our students knew that we cared about them, that we loved them, that we wanted them with us, and we made great efforts. We continued with rewards, we continued with Students of the Month, we continue with all these things to make our students feel as safe as we possibly could, even though they weren't in front of us a lot. So out of the School and Climate and Safety Survey that they took at the end of the year, my school is a caring place, 95.3% strongly agree with that. And I'm not gonna lie, I teared up when I read that, because that means we're doing something right. We need to address academics. We always focus on that part, but that social emotional piece is so important to us. And that was amazing to see. At least one adult from my school listens to me when I have something to say, 95.8% strongly agree. And we've emphasized to them that they have a voice and their voice matters. And we want to know what they have to say. The good, the bad, and the ugly. We want to know what they have to say. And that helps them articulate and find that voice and find who they are. And if a student reports bullying during school, the adults will do something to help. 92.9% strongly agree with that. And that is something that we are extraordinarily proud of. We want to stand up for students, all students, and know that when they come to school, they're safe and that they're valued. Okay. We continue to have reward bucks. We continue to have house rallies, spirit weeks. We're continuing to do that. We did that last year, even when they weren't in the building. We found really creative ways to connect with students socially and emotionally and keep them motivated as best we could. So we feel like this is a big successful piece. So you can go to the next slide. But of course, lots of areas of growth, and we know that. Where do we need to rise? So the biggest piece out of this that I see, 2 or more grade levels below in reading, 55% are 2 or more grade levels below. This is not good. I believe in honesty, brutal honesty, and we have a lot of work to do. Okay, I think that COVID was extraordinarily detrimental. And our age group is, they struggle a lot, I think, with finding out who they are. They're going through a lot of emotional changes, hormonal changes. They're going through a lot of different challenges. And so I think COVID did a lot of damage, but we've got a lot of work to do and we're gonna fix it. We're gonna fix it. The math piece, 2 or more grade levels below, 49%. And as Mr. Mattingly said, not acceptable. We won't accept it and we're gonna do what we can to fix it. I mentioned the PLC work we're doing. We're using data to inform our instruction. And we're also doing a book study, which I'll tell you a little more about in my final slide. You can go ahead. Okay, so how are we going to rise? The PLC work that we're doing, but the book study is classroom assessment for student learning. And we have challenged our staff with changing their lens. Instead of looking at 20%, 25%, 30%, we're looking at non-mastery, partial mastery, full mastery. How do we change the lens? And how do we help kids move forward? Because as Ms. Murphy said, last year was unlike any year that we've ever seen. So we have to teach differently. We can't do the same thing and expect it to work. So this book study is pretty intensive that I am working with the staff on, and we go through chapter by chapter and we use it in our PLC work and we apply it in the classroom. We're doing instructional walkthroughs to monitor how this work is coming along. And it's really hard to shift that lens. If a student is, it's a 50% on a test, we see that as, oh, you failed the test. That's half the content. That's partial mastery. How do we help kids see the positive aspect? How do we make them feel good about what they've accomplished? And how do we get them to full mastery? So those are the things we're really looking at. We have ESS. We've started providing that a few weeks ago, including a daytime waiver person, math interventionist. We were using a student from the high school, actually, so it's really great students teaching students. And our social emotional time, we find extraordinarily important. And we protect that time and make sure that it's not using it as an extension of instruction. It's true check in and connect with those students. We also feel that even in situations where we're disciplining students, those are teachable moments. And we use that as social emotional growth. How do we help them make better choices in the future? And that helps us establish relationships with those students. So we'll continue awards and incentives this year. The picture in the middle, we had a Spirit Week, and it was, I can't remember, was it Country Club or Country? I think was, was that day, and they were just the cutest little things. But the other ones, you can see they're working hard in their classrooms, and I'm really proud of them. I'm proud to be at Marion County Middle School. Yeah, it's amazing. So excited to see what happens next. Thank you all very much for your time.
Thank you. I'm not like a toddler that pays for pancakes. Anyway. I can't talk. All right, Mr. Lyons, you can go to the next one. Oh, my bad. I thought he was doing it. Some of the things we look at for data or graduation rate, K-Prep, iReady, our K-8 students do that. ACT, we do Mastery Prep, and Tariffs Metrics, and our 4th and 5th graders are doing some Achieve 3000. We'll get there. Thank you. Our success. This is huge, I think, because it shows the number of graduates that we've had. So in 17-18, I'm thinking we had, I don't know, 23, something like that. In 18-19, it jumped pretty big. I think there was about, I want to say 50. And then 19-20, it went back down because that's pandemic year. So some of the kids that we would have gotten ended up staying, I guess, over the high school. So it wasn't quite the number. And then last year was 57, I believe. So that is 57 kids that might not have gotten a high school diploma. So it's huge. I mean, I'm not saying all of them would be that way, but there is a large number that would be the situation. So we are super proud of that. That excites us every year. All right, Lynn, we'll get. Our area of concern is Tariffs Metrics survey, and the reason being is you can see the number of kids that we have getting 1s, 2s, 3s, 4s, and 5s on that survey, and that is not good. I think in March we had 78 kids that showed up to take it. About 51% of them scored 1 to 5. In August, I think 109 showed up, which was a great turnout. I believe it was 44% of them that got 1 through 5. So that number is too high. We need to do some things to make that number go down, and I'll talk about that on the next slide. And some of the things we want to work toward or start doing some small group SEL groups with especially our middle school age kids, because they seem to be the ones that are struggling the most. We want to do some one-on-one sessions with kids and lots of career prep, thinking critically, problem solving things, math and phonics stuff. I had a kid come today that said, I do not know how to write a check. And I was like, well, we're going to fix that. So those kinds of things. Our population is growing drastically. You know, how can we do some of those small group things? You know, I think if we could look at having a full-time counselor for our students, that is super important to be able to do these things. You know, it's hard for us to do it right now because, you know, we don't have a whole lot of staff members, but we can do the best we can do until we can possibly, you know, do something about that. And that picture up there is probably one of my all-time favorite pictures. Parents sent that to me from a young man who graduated this year, and that is what it's all about right there. So we are super proud of that part of our program, and that is our spiel.
All right, everybody. Good evening. Everybody know Paul Terrell, principal at Calvary. So we got a lot to be excited about, a lot of work to do, just like everybody else. Maybe go ahead and go to the next slide. We do have, I'm not going to go over all the stuff that we do have, it's the same that Mr. Manley talked about. But the good thing that this is, these are great tools that we can use to help push students with their learning. It's not what drives the instruction, but these resources that we are very lucky and very blessed to have do a great job of supporting that learning. we get kids level where they need to be. So that's what these things, these really do help us with those type of supports for our kiddos. So you want to go to the next slide with our celebrations. So when we took this, we were very excited with some of the things that we did see as far as the irony assessment that you'll see over here. We were excited, teachers were nervous. They were so nervous. God bless them. They, either were gone. They all worked so hard last year. They were for all of us, and to see the results that we have, it was a nice little, got us excited. Okay, we can do this. We're in a good spot. We want to be better. There's a little more red and yellow there than what we would like, but there is some good stuff there as well. Math, a little stronger than reading, but we can get those up. Something that we're really excited about, or what I'm even more than the test scores, because social emotional learning is huge in the district. We've really pushed it this year, and we're really seeing a lot of results. The Tariffs Metrics is something that we do, and we've seen a lot of excitement with that, with our 98% of students with positive school experience. We've also seen an improvement with our global satisfaction and hope, that hope that just things can get better. And I'm gonna hit you with some new data that's not on here because we got it today. We are a Leader in Me school, and Leader in Me is very big on the staff social emotional type learning. So it's really big for our kids. We did something called the MRA today. It's just another survey kids can take. They name all kinds of sort of things. One of my favorites that I saw from that was student belonging was as high as it's been since I've been there. And what that tells me is that kids, teachers, they are so happy to be back. We're in such a better spot than we were last year as far as where our kids are and being back in school, doing those things like they're doing at Marion Middle and like they're doing at West Marion, all across the district. That's school again. We're big on houses. I think a lot of schools do houses. We do ours a little differently. We have them actually broken down between grades, and we got our first house competition. And it's just wonderful doing those fun things that kids enjoy, that kids want to be a part of, and having that sense of belonging and that sense of family at Calvary Elementary. So very excited about that. Also some stuff too with our staff being excited to be back, teacher satisfaction, teacher efficacy, social emotional teaching ratings, which goes along with what the Tariffs Metrics says, with MRA, with Leader in Me, what we're doing every day. Really was growing, so we were really excited about that. So there are room to improve though. So if you would, for me, that's big. Back up. So we are excited though. There are some stuff here though we do need to work on. Absolutely. So when we look at this, we see when we took our ready assessment, what you saw was when they took it then, and now they projected to how it would be if they took it in December when we do take it at that time. So we got to really go after this and really go after the areas of math and reading. Second grade, big issue for us, but second grade with our phonics, we're really focusing on that with our foundations. And also I think a big part of those second graders, and Mr. Malley said the same thing, they never had a real school year, a regular school year. They never had them. They came to kindergarten, they got to about, what was it, March 13th, that year, than the year last year. So I think that may have had some impact on it. However, that's not an excuse, that's something we did, and now we got to move forward and figure out how we can fix that. So my daughter's in second grade, so I know what that's been like. As far as that goes, we can go ahead and start addressing how we're going to improve that. Big things we're going to do as far as instruction, obviously it's the core of what our staff, teachers, and everybody in our school does. Really going to work on collaboration, interventions. We're very lucky to have our daytime waiver. We have two fantastic ladies, both retired teachers from Marion County that come in and work with our students. We're doing a fantastic job. A lot of professional learning we're really hitting on. We want to really invest in our teachers and grow them and get them where they need to be. We had an Able and Atherton writing PD. We do a lot of case Kentucky Center for Mathematics, professional developments, which have been a huge help and really have taught my teachers a lot of skills they can use to impact and grow our students. Again, with the programs, and then as far as staff, other things we can do, as far as our Leader in Me, we really are going hard with that this year and using that to boost the morale, keep that culture and climate at Calvary up where we want it to be. It's a very great place to be, great place to work, great students, great staff that are working really, really hard. And we want to use that to drive our instruction forward. So a lot of good things, a lot of things we need to work on, but I think we're all heading in the right direction.
Hi there. Yeah, right.
Well, if you can't tell, the principal group has a lot of camaraderie between us as we like to rib each other and stuff at that time. So I may be known to be the talker, but Daniel's got this tonight, I'm pretty sure. So I am Sarah Brady. I'm at the Knight Academy, and I did make notes just in case. Several overlaps here with assessment data that we do use. One of the things that I do want to point out that hasn't been talked about that we use very often at Knight Academy is what we call common assessments, meaning we have two 8th grade math teachers. They work together and give the same
math test at the end of the unit. That way they are holding their kids accountable to learn at the same rigor and the same level, and they can have that kind of comparison of data that happens very often. And that way, if you took Algebra 1 with teacher A, it's the same thing as if you took Algebra 1 with teacher B. So there's not that learning gap and that learning difference. So this is something that's across the board in all of our contents that we use and we talk about and we look at that data real regularly. We do, like Marion County Middle School pointed out, we do put a lot of emphasis on what I would call like non-academic data. We look at our Tariffs Metrics data, we look at behavior data, we look at attendance data, because we're really looking for this complete picture of what the school experience is and what the student needs. We do some teacher walkthroughs. My assistant principal and I have developed a Google form, and that gives us data about what instruction looks like and some of the goals we have set. And we actually share that with teachers once a month in our faculty meetings. We sit down and look at our own instructional data, what that looks like. And it can be things like, we'll talk about like what kind of questions were asked. We're seeing a big slide about yes or no questions, type questions, you know, like specific answers versus questions that were more critical thinking. And we can have that kind of discussion about what our instruction looks like. So a lot of information coming in for us to look at. Thank you. Some successes here. I know it's kind of hard to tell. We had pretty good success over here. This is K-Prep last year, 8th grade. The green and the blue here coming together, an increase in student writing ability. This is results from that climate and culture survey that those 8th graders took last year. They were asked things like, you know, how caring is my school? And do the adults care about me? And, you know, can I report things? And just, you know, 8th graders are going to tell the truth about those type things, you know, so, and developmentally, they are the best group to work with as they're, you know, going through all those changes. But you can see here, the green and the yellow are all the strongly agree and agree, and just how far down that goes about making that difference in those students' lives. Across the bottom, this one is our iReady data for reading. It is not great, but it's that moment where it's not as bad as we thought it was going to be. Students did hold their own in reading for kind of transitioning into this year. And our 9th grade take a program called Mastery Prep. It's more of an ACT prep type program. And this is the first time they've taken anything like that as 9th graders. They're coming off of things like math and K-Prep. So now they're transitioning to that high school year. So this Mastery Prep, they took it kind of cold turkey just to get a baseline this first time. And this one is for reading. So about 20% of our students are already at that 20 benchmark for reading, like an ACT benchmark score. So as freshmen that are just coming in cold turkey, ready to go, you know, so that's pretty good just coming in data. And this one is our science data. So science is at the 20 as well. And then this section of yellow is like 17, 18, 19 is 4 of those. So it's looking like reading programs coming up, science programs coming up are really, you know, preparing kids, and they've got those kind of skills. So those look pretty good. Our areas of concern is going to look like math across the board. You know, COVID just really affected math. Math's a very sequential thing to learn step by step. So what you're seeing here is 8th grade K-Prep data last year, looking like a large section of novice and apprentice students. Those students took Mastery Prep as 9th grade, so end of 8th, beginning 9th, and you can see that mirrored result here with math. Still, we haven't had a lot of learning between this point and this point, you know, they, you know, very end of the year, very beginning of the year. So, but the programs did mirror each other in that, showing us that there's a lack of math skills. This one is demographics on our K-Prep. You can see that whether you are male, female, this one shows white and Hispanic, all students, it hit across the board with that deficit. And then already incoming 8th grade is showing a real large percentage of apprentice math. So we get it, we need to focus on math, kind of deal. So what are we gonna do about it? I have a lot up here, and I know it's kind of tiny. I'm not gonna talk about all of them. So one of the things that we did was we did purchase a new math program for our 8th grade called Illustrative Math. It's not an online program, it's teacher manuals, it's support, it's kind of what you think of, a little bit more old school type program. It gets kids more critical thinking about math than just teaching like a rote, this is how you solve the problem kind of situation. So we are implementing that. Some other things, of course, the iReady and the Mastery Prep, they do come with pathways and extra learning and really help support. So we are dividing, using time and devoting time to those things. Of course, we have regular professional learning communities with amongst our teachers, always looking at data. Something that we're doing very soon is Instructional Realms. And that is where teachers observe other teachers. I get subs for the day and create a schedule, and they go out and they know what they're looking for, what we're focused in as a school. They observe their colleagues. We come back and debrief, and we identify next steps together. And we've done that 2 other times before COVID hit and kind of changed this up a little bit. We've had a lot of really positive experience with that, with just teachers helping and growing. There's a lot of expertise in the building, and for them to just take ownership of moving forward together. So that is something coming up that we are working on. In fact, you'll get an invitation because I invite the board and central office and stuff to join us if you're available for that kind of thing. It's really neat. Socially and emotionally though, you know, I'm a big believer in kids have got to love school and want to be there and have that sense of belonging, and just, you know, as Paige mentioned too, that middle school years are just, they can get a little wonky on kids, you know, and we really spend a lot of time looking at that school experience for our students. So we do have clubs for everybody. We have looked at our Tariffs Metrics data, and we've already got small groups formed with mentors already meeting with those kids. We've got a cornhole and free throw tournament next week. I mean, just after school, just because we can, and, you know, just to have some fun and laugh, and we'll have pizza, and it just gets a nice opportunity to get to know the kids. Next month it's makeup and hair tutorials though, so I'm pretty excited about that one myself. So, you know, just things that gets kids happy and excited about being, you know, part of the school. And then we do give out another survey that's just one, like an in-house, called One Trusted Adult. We've got that projected to go out on October 25th, and we ask our students, if you were going through something, if something were to happen, is there an adult in this building that you would feel comfortable going to? And they have a drop-down menu of every adult: custodian, cafeteria, certified, classified, secretary, everybody is on this drop-down, and they can select, you know, yes, I would go to so-and-so. And the second, but on that list, there is the option, I have no one. So we ask them that, and we do let the teachers know if they've been selected. They don't necessarily have to do anything other than just be aware that this child is looking at you as their one trusted adult in the building. And those that have selected, I don't have anybody, we go in and we decide, like, hey, you know, this is a student in your nightly group, this is a student in your first period. Can you kind of start making that connection with that student so that everybody in our building feels like they are important? So that is not academy. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Christina McRae, principal at Marion County ATC. My data tends to look a little different than the other schools, simply because my students come from our others, from the Knight Academy and the high school. However, we do have an important role in accountability. We work on the transition readiness, or the post-secondary readiness component of data. And our goal is opportunities and outcomes for all students, no matter what they choose to do. So our points of data are dual credit enrollment, industry certification data. And this year we got the opportunity to look at the SREB Technology Centers that Work survey data that our students, some of our students took in May. So I'll talk a little bit about those points tonight. Next. One thing that we're really proud of is our dual credit data, and I've kind of given you some history there. When Ms. Murphy and I first started at the ATC,
there was no dual credit. What that means is our school is identified as a satellite campus for ECTC. All of my instructors, with a few exceptions, are adjunct professors for ECTC. So our goal was to get kids a head start on their future. If they wanted to go to post-secondary, and I'm taking classes at the ATC now, can those be offered as dual credit? For example, if a student wants to get an industrial maintenance degree, what classes can I take that I don't have to take in college? So I just gave you some numbers there. In 2018, the program didn't exist yet. We had 0 enrollment in dual credit. In 2019, we had 90 for the whole school year. So about 45 and 45. Last year, we had 168 total for the school year. You can see the growth there. I like to always throw in 505 college hours earned on campus at the ATC for free, tuition free for kids. And then this year in fall alone, we have 123. So we think that number will, second semester we'll get new sets of kids. Hopefully those students will continue to enroll in dual credit courses. The goal of that opportunity is I have a jump start on my college degree if I choose to go that route. If not, I still have classes at the college level that I can take with me into the workforce. So that's a great point that we're continuing to work on. Ms. Gooch and I set a goal of 75 students first semester. We blew right past that, which is good. The second data point I talked about was industry certification. Mr. Peterson and his staff, their goal is to get every child college or career ready. We work with them on that. I wanted the board to know that in 2021, 80 plus seniors, number was 82 to be exact, earned an industry certification in their pathway. What that means is they completed the 4 courses. They have an industry recognized credential, for example, the CNA exam, the ASC student exam, and were able to earn that credential while they were in high school. Okay, the #1 area in healthcare right now of need is CNAs. They can't find them. They're just high demand. We graduated 17 of them. Most programs at the post-secondary level don't get that many a year. Right. One thing that Courtney and I used to work on a whole lot while we were there is kids able to discuss their outcomes. When we first arrived, kids didn't even know their pathway. Like I'm a welder, but what pathway? Well, we've done a lot of work on that, and now they know their goal. Before I leave, I want to earn this, and this gives me this. So we've been doing a lot of work on that, and that number is starting to show. The last point of data we got to use this year is our SRB survey data, technology centers that work is exclusive to ATCs. And our data overall was positive. Students feel challenged academically at the ATC. These are just some points that they brought out for us. Our pathways meet their interests and needs, and their teachers help them make connections that impact their life. So those are some data points that we were really proud of. Next, please. Areas of concern. We have dual credit, but we don't have dual credit in every program yet. For example, construction, ECTC won't offer that because they don't have that program. So we have to reach out. So now we're working with JCTC because they have a construction program. How can I get it certified? Pre-engineering, graphic design, and automotive are all in the same boat so that we can ensure equity and access in all programs. Kids will say, well, I'm in this program, why can't I get dual credit? Well, I'm working on it. We're working on finding a post-secondary partner that will do that with us. So we also need to streamline the process for offering industry certs. I think our number last year was lower than it could be, because when kids leave for the semester, we may not see them again. So our process now is we're going to test them before they leave. Okay, if we can't get a chance to get them back, the process for who and when, we're streamlining that process. And then we had some data points that really on SREB that we need to work on. Okay, one that stood out to me, and the other data around it, around that same question, didn't support this one, but it is what it is. And data, they've said it, data doesn't lie. 40% of the students that took this survey said they felt like an outsider at our center, and that is not okay with me. Like I said, the other data points around it didn't support that, but it is something our teachers and I are looking at. A student connection to industry opportunities. They want mentorship opportunities, and they want business involved in their classroom. So we're continuing to make those connections. And then students noted that they want to make connections to literacy, reading, writing, speaking, and listening in their tech pathway. So we'll work on that. Next. So that deals with the next steps that I've kind of already discussed. Construction dual credit starts fall 2022. JCTC is in the process of getting us approved through SACs, et cetera. Post-secondary partners are still working with us in pre-engineering, graphic design, et cetera. And then I've talked about industry certification already. And then we're really going to dive into that SREB survey data and then get the chance to take it again and see how those continue to change. We are blessed with wonderful industry in this community, so they're willing to come in. I've just got to make that connection with and for our teachers to get them in to things like problem-based learning. You have a problem, industry will let us help you solve it, and that mentorship that goes with that. So I'm also going to be participating in a literacy and writing grant with Washington County Schools. I was a partner on a grant application. We got accepted, so that'll be helping us enhance instruction in all programs for all kids, regardless of where they go to school. So that's something we're really excited about. Questions?
Robbie Peterson, principal of the high school. I've got Miss Evans going to come up here with me. She can talk a little bit about basically we focus on the ACT, Mastery Prep, and K-Prep as the data points as well. We're going to talk a lot about the Mastery Prep because that is our new program, the ACT. It's a very intentional program. It's got a lot of programs that will bring up kids that have the lower scores, and that's what I wanted to be able to focus on and get those kids with those lower scores pulled up. So I want everybody to have that good ACT. All right, swing in. Showcasing success, science and reading mastery prep scores for the first practice that we have already taken. Show good results for the class of 2024 and the class of 2023. And the reason we use the class of is because with the pandemic, a lot of kids all the kids didn't reach the number of credits to move up that grade, but they're still that class of, and they'll hopefully catch up this year, and they will catch up. Use some goal setting, score tracking, rewards. We do that through our Nightway groups. We had 30+ recognitions on this. Anybody scoring above a 30 on the first practice test, which was that we had several kids do that as well. 5+ ratings in the Mastery Prep. The Mastery Prep uses an algorithm. I'm not going to get into the weeds with it, but it gives you areas you can work on, and it gives you areas where you're doing good. Like we had a 5-star rating for time management, showing the likelihood that your students were being able to make and guess and using their time wisely as they go through the test. K-Prep, math and writing, below state average in novice and above state average in proficient and distinguished in those areas. And if you look at the time management at 5-star, stamina, the endurance to take the test, precision, the ability to focus in on the questions, got the higher star ratings on those. And then that goes into the next category. If you move to the next slide, and areas of concern, and areas that we can work on, no blanks. You know, kids don't understand the importance of getting through the ACT. That's something that we've got to teach them, and the use of process of elimination, the questioning portion of it. Math and English, mastery prep test #1 scores, areas of focus, content focus with the greatest impact. Of course, it's going to be math and English. Math and English, as you can tell by the scores, are not what we're used to. When we go back, we had success in science. I remember back when several years ago when I was assistant principal here, science was their area of concern. So, I mean, you know, it's going to flip back and forth, but hopefully we can get this area to focus on math and English.
What we like a lot about Mastery Prep is that it gives us some of this really specific information about specific areas that we can concentrate on. Not only just on testing strategies, which obviously, like Mr. Peterson pointed out, we're going to focus on the no blanks and the process of elimination,
and our teachers have access to strategies and questions that they can use in class to help students work on those things. But also as a content focus, within students take those 4 tests, English, math, reading, and science. But within that, we were able to get a breakdown of really specific skill sets that students could work on to get the most bang for their buck. And so when you see things like in English, usage conventions, and math, algebra, Mastery Prep really dives into that specifically and gives students within their study hall a specific pathway to follow, but also our teachers have really great resources to kind of hone in. So as a school, we have not just an ACT focus, we have some really specific focuses. And math, having a focus of algebra, is just kind of a testament to what all of us have been talking about, because normally for us at the high school level, we would concentrate on geometry skills for the ACT, but we're having to back that up to get some of those more foundational algebra skills. And so this just kind of helped us to recognize that and highlight that a little bit more.
And at the end of the day, I mean, it's a great program, and all the programs that we have are great, but at the end of the day, the impact is having those kids in front of a teacher. And we all know that the impact of that teacher could not be replaced. And that's where we're going to get our most gain. Next steps, we're going to continue. We've got a year-long master prep plan. We've got our second practice test coming up November the 30th. Our first 2 were on the computer, within the computer screen, but we do have the third one, which will be right before the ACT is given, is going to be a paper pencil. Master Prep provides that, and they'll be able to send that. We'll be able to send that off, and within 48 hours, they'll have that data back to us. So we'll hopefully have a good idea of where our kids are standing. But the first 2 will give us be able to set the kids, be able to set goals and work towards those goals. It's got an effective use of study hall. These are online. It's an online study hall based upon geared exactly to what the content that they need. Boot camp. All juniors will participate in a boot camp the week before. Is it the week or 2 weeks? 2 weeks before. And goal setting and student motivation school-wide. So it's got to be a school-wide focus on the ACT. I think that's something with the pandemic that we were just happy to be able to give the ACT to some students last year. So hopefully that this year we can continue to stay in school and have that school-wide focus for that.
Good afternoon, evening. My name is Benjamin. I'm the principal at Elementary School. Sorry, I got to stretch a little bit. I'm not like our little kids. I got to get up and move around some. So we'll go quickly over some of these slides. We have basically the same programs as the other elementary schools have. So if you want to go to the next. So our showcasing area. We are a leader in me. We're working on incorporating that. We understand the importance of building leadership skills into our students. Our school has a very high poverty rate, and we know that our students, that when they come to us with poverty, and research shows that, we got to make sure we don't use that as an excuse. And last year we talked a lot with our teachers about the importance of developing and building hope in our students. Because when kids have hope, they understand the importance of becoming a better reader, the importance of becoming a better mathematician, and the importance of getting a better education to help them have a better career for their life down the road in the future. So we're already, and I want to explain this a little bit more. We use sort of the basic review of this in the 3-point area. There's 2 different ways of looking at it. I did it this way. Is that our students, the first time they took this, at the beginning of the year, it shows that in the area of reading that about 65% of our students are ready at this moment. But the next slide I'll show you exactly what we're going to be looking for in the future. In math, we're looking at about 66% that are ready at this particular moment. That is still not good enough. Until we're about 80, 90, 100%, that all of our students are ready for what they need to be for both reading and math, writing and everything else, that is still not good enough at all. We also felt like we could succeed and had success in the Tariffs Metrics. This is sort of last year's data, and I reviewed this year's data we took, and it's actually improved even more from this, which goes back to what the other administration was saying, the importance of having the kids in the building. Having that time to develop a relationship with the teacher, with instructional aides, or anybody else in that building. And before I go on, something I did not put on here about showcasing success, and it was hard to show, is I want to give all of our staff members, from custodians to cafeteria ladies to our teachers, aides, as well as our students and parents, a big shout out. Last year, our teachers went above and beyond. I had teachers going to houses, sitting on the steps with trailers and everything else, sitting there working with their students because sometimes their parents were scared for them to come in, or we were not in person at that time. And I want to take the time, I didn't take pictures of that, because we did tons of home visits last year. Now, I understand it was a year like no other, but when we start getting to some other areas, I start looking at data that was previous years. And the things that we at Little Elementary School that take pride is our students love coming to our school. The most important thing is that when they're there is what are we doing with them? We have to develop that sense of hope and understanding and love, but we also have to identify those areas and those skills and hit those skills in those areas to move them to that next level. Okay, because they're not going to be prepared for the real life, for the middle school, the high school, if we do not provide them with those necessary skills to be successful. So we went from about 40 that were doing real well in the satisfactory up to 46. We went down a little bit in the at risk, but at our level at risk, we started working with those different students, but it's not as at risk as you would think on certain things. Last year, we identified or surveyed 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade students. This year, we're just surveying 4th and 5th grade. But even with that, our data for this year is actually even better from last year, which is good. But this is from last year during a pandemic, and I still think that's an area of success no matter what. So next screen. So areas of concern. There's two main areas is that I've got already data as well as K-Prep data. Is our K-Prep data is we have way too many novice students. It is extremely unacceptable, and that's in areas of 3rd, 4th, and 5th, as well as in the area of reading and math. We do not have as many students in the areas of distinguished for both reading and math. And that's why it's so important for us to make sure, because a lot of our data shows that, is that looking not just from last year, but previous years, and utilizing the already data, is that our students, when they got to 3rd, 4th, 5th grade, were still struggling in certain basic areas and foundation areas, which means phonics, phonological awareness, number sense. And once kids get to 3rd, 4th, and 5th grade, and they still struggle with those areas, they're going to continue to struggle. So that's where already is being able to break things down with those pathways and everything else, but also those teachers, when we're in our different charter groups during the day, is working with those students on those areas. If we have a 4th grade student that is struggling with phonics or anything else, then we're sitting there working with those students and walking around. They're spending some time on their pathway on the computer, but then there's a certain amount of time they're rotating and actually sitting down with an adult. Okay. So as I put here, our focus is basic reading and mathematical domains, targeting phonics, phonological awareness, high frequency words, numbers, and operations. Because if they do not have the foundation, I've always shared with the staff as well as parents is, when you're building a house, if you don't have a strong foundation, whatever you build on top of it is also going to fall down or collapse or anything else. When there's a storm or anything else, that foundation has to be very solid and good. Next slide. So our next steps, we are implementing foundations because we started that last year as well as this year to target the areas of phonics and phonological awareness. We're also working on doing guided reading, which is identifying different students at different levels. In one particular classroom, for example, 2nd grade, that teacher can have a straight 2nd grade, but have 3 or 4 different levels of students at different reading levels. So our main thing is we group those students in different levels of books, and start working with those students and rotating them around to make sure that they're meeting those areas that they need. We're working on incorporating more with the Leader in Me to build our students from developing hope and getting those basic skills up to actually developing them into strong leaders from different clubs, different leadership roles around our school. So that way they can not just learn about being a leader, but also start practicing those skills. I bulleted some areas over here. One is improving our tier core instruction. And if you don't understand what tier 1 is, tier 2, MTSS or RTI, RTI stands for response to intervention, or MTSS is multiple tier services or system support. Always forget that part stands. But the main thing is that a lot of times what kids are struggling is if what we're doing is not working, we have to take a step back and say, we need to try something different. Because it's not a cookie cutter process. And what works for one student doesn't always work for another student. Then also improving our tier 2 charter time to target specific students and areas of need. Specific time in the schedule has been put into our master schedule to work with those students above and beyond their normal reading and math time. Improving our tier 3, targeting to target specific students in areas of need, specifically trained teachers working with these students. We actually have specialists in the area of reading as well as math. And like some of the other administrators mentioned, thank goodness for our retired teachers. We have at least 3 retired teachers that are coming back with many years of experience in working with our students even more in smaller groups or sometimes one-on-one. We'd like for them to come back even longer and more, but they're like 2 or 3 days is about all I want to do right now. So they've earned that right, and I'm just glad that they come in and help us when they do. We do PLCs, just in case you don't remember what PLCs is, it's professional learning communities. And basically what we do is we sit down at our grade level meetings and we talk about data. When they give assessments or anything else, we look at that specific data and says, what's it telling us? Or how are the kids doing? How are the kids not doing? Do we need to go back and reteach specific things to help improve those students in those areas? We also have our Ess Daytime Waiver, which is where our retired teachers are helping with us. And our K-2 Foundations in Guided Reading has been implemented to help improve foundational skills in students in lower grades. Our teachers got training in some of that last year. Some of them got some training this year. And if they're needing more training, we're going to give them even more training. But I also tell my staff, I said, you all are my students. And I think another administrator alluded to this or made a comment is that it's important for us to continue to grow our teachers and our leaders in the building. And some might be real tech savvy and some might not be as tech savvy. After last year, everybody's tech savvy. More than you want to do. But it's important that we as the leaders in the building is adapt our learning and our teachers' professional learning plans or anything else to what their needs are. So that way they continue to grow as a professional teacher in the classroom so that they can continue to help the students in their classroom. Time in the schedule for students to work in their already pathways for both reading and math. Identifying our Leader in Me WIGs and aligning those to our school improvement plan. We're also working on making sure that we're constantly focusing, if you haven't looked at our Facebook page or anything else, is looking at the positive things that we're constantly doing every single day. If you drive by elementary school, one, you can see it a whole lot better now because we've cut down a lot of trees and cleaned up a lot of the bushes and everything else. And then there was a lot of talk many years ago of, do we close the school or not close the school? And I reminded the staff, I said, as long as I'm the principal there, we're going to take pride. No matter if it's 62, 3 years old or not in certain sections, is that we're going to take pride. But in order to do that, you have to hire the right people for the seats on the bus. And I've probably hired more people in the last year and so many months than I had 8 or 9 years at West Marion. But it's important to get those right people on the bus. And I want to give a shout out to our staff members that they're being willing to try new things, learn new things, but also accept the fact that what we have been doing is not getting the results that we want to see. Thank you.
Hey, I'm Angie Akers from Glasscock Elementary School. I'm the head principal.
I'm Matthew Reed, assistant principal.
All right. I won't go into a lot of detail because we are using the same programs at the elementary the other elementary schools are using, except for one, it's literacy first. Some of the other elementary schools are using foundations, but we're using literacy first. And Mr. Reed has experience with literacy first, and he'll talk a little bit more in detail as we get along with our slides. Actually, we can go back for just 1 second. If you click on, and you don't necessarily have to right now, but if you click on the icons, they are hyperlinked with our specific scores. So,
You better throw that out.
well, but I don't have them linked here, so I don't have the picture of it here, but they are linked. So we love to showcase our bulldogs. They're super special. We just have a great group of kiddos, and we try to be creative in the ways that we spotlight them for their successes. Like, for example, our K-Prep writing is something that I take a lot of great pride in. They did really, really well with writing. And most of the year is virtual. And so the fact that they took those skills and were able to do so well makes me so proud, and it really showcases what our teachers have done. But there is a variety of ways that we like to showcase our students. We love to use social media, and Ms. Morganson, our media specialist, is just the best at showcasing our students on social media. We have what we call as a GES Weekly Spotlight, where our instructional coach creates a slideshow, and it has data from iReady on there. It has data from Lexia Chi, and she puts that, has that put on social media to really compliment our students. We also have morning meetings where we do a lot of recognition for our students. During the morning meeting, it's student led. They want no part of me with it. They don't want any adults helping. They like to do it all on their own, and it takes a lot of nerve for a fourth grader to get up and lead the show in front of all the kids, but they do it and they take great pride in it, and they do love to recognize the students through there. We also have a student leadership program.
And that's through Leader and Me, and we've had that for many years. And I head up a lot of the student-led positions. It's a process where they have to fill out an application, pick from a specific leadership position that they like in the school. And it's just a great opportunity kids love to take. And a lot of positions have been created by the kids. And I've been able to make those work within the school, which is great that they are able to give me those suggestions. Along with the Leader Me, the morning meetings are led that way. And then next week, we're doing our student-led conferences. And that's, again, part of Leader Me, but it's where the student takes ownership of their learning, and they show their leadership binder, and it has academic behavior things in there that they showcase to their parents. So that's a great thing.
In those binders, they also have how they did on the Tariffs Metrics.
Mhm.
It has data that would include not just their K-Prep data, but just data throughout the year, maybe how they've done on a test. But they get an opportunity to reflect on things about them. What have they done well with? What do they feel like that they're struggling with? So it's a time for them to reflect and create goals that they want to do for the next 9 weeks. We also have a Write Stuff board to showcase our writing, to really push our students in writing across all grade levels, K through 5. We get to showcase one student in each grade level, and we post their work on a bulletin board. We talk about it during morning meeting, and we really just want to get them in the habit of writing. We also have Leaders of the Month. Each month, our teachers will pick a student that stands out. Maybe it was for working towards their goals. Maybe it was getting their homework done every night. Maybe it was being kind to another student or using the 7 habits. So we recognize those during morning meeting, and I cannot talk about success and showcasing success without talking about our teachers. We have thrown a lot of at our teachers with last year, teaching them to be flexible and embracing technology. And, this year, we've asked them to do a whole nother program with the Phonics program, and they just embraced it, and they've gotten out of their comfort zone. And I know they're out of their comfort zone, but you know what? They're willing to do it. They come in every day and they talk to us, how can we do better? And so to me, that's inspiring. So I can't talk about showcasing success
with that really complimenting our staff.
Yeah, they just love our kids. I mean, that's all it comes down to. They just will do whatever needs to be done. They love our kids.
So areas of concern, something that probably had been an area of concern in the past that I really see now is attendance. And that's a tough one. You know, before COVID, our attendance was really good. It was something to be proud of. But since COVID, we've really had a hard time getting our students in the building. I know the first month of school was 93%, and then the second month it dropped to 91, which is unusual for Glasscock. So we know that that's an area of concern. We want them in our building. We need them in our building. In math and our reading, that's two areas of concerns that we want to focus on. According to our already data, we have 143 students in both areas that are at least 2 grade levels below. So that's definitely an area that those two subject areas that we want to work on.
And in the phonics area, we only have 16% of kindergarten students meeting grade level phonics expectations, only 11 for first grade and only 10 for second grade. So again, we have just started the Literacy First program for phonics. We are very thankful that the district was able to purchase that program for us. I'll touch on that in a second, but that just supports us getting that program, saying that we need to move forward and grow our students in that area. And then in science, of course, fourth grade is the only grade level in K-Prep that is assessed in science, but 63% of our fourth graders scored apprentice. So that is obviously an area that we need to grow.
So next steps. Some of the next steps that we are going to focus on is, you know, we've done small group instruction for years. We've differentiated, but our goal this year is to really be intentional. Why did you group those students together? What data gave you the information you need to know? This is what they're doing, and this is why they're doing it, and this is who's in that group. So really being intentional and focused on who's in the small group and what they're actually working on.
And that's what I love about the Literacy First program. I've had several years of experience with it. It is very intentional. The thing that I love most about it is the ability to track. You track students from kindergarten through third grade on a phonics continuum. It's a phonological awareness continuum, which is only here, you know, what you can hear, rhyming, syllables. And then you have a phonics continuum. And you're really beginning with the end in mind with this. So you can have a student on the phonics continuum. I'll stick with phonics because phonological awareness kind of throws people off a little bit. But with phonics, you can really start with the end in mind. You can have a kindergarten teacher or student come in and meet that threshold for that expectation of the 4 or 5 skills in kindergarten. And then you can move that student up into first grade skills. It's really, I mean, it's truly differentiation. You're able to assess your classroom, break them down into groups, and then if you have some babies that are a little lower or some high flyers, you can make those adjustments and know exactly what they can and cannot do to help them be on grade level. And I love it. And it's K through 3. We actually have a coaching session next week where our rep for Literacy First is coming in to walk along myself, Ms. Akers, Ms. Dana Thomas, our instructional coach, and we're going to be providing immediate feedback to those teachers. Because of my experience with the Literacy First program, I've been fortunate enough to go into all of K through 3 and provide model lessons for them so that they're a little more confident, right? When you step outside of your comfort zone, you're not as confident. So I just wanted to be able to provide that for them. And I really look forward to moving forward and just making great progress with the Literacy First program.
So we also have started implementing a Fact Fluency Friday. So every Friday, K through 5 are being tested on their Fact Fluency. What we found was that our third graders, they would learn their multiplication, and then when they got to fourth grade, they wouldn't remember. It was just short-term memory. So we do this every Friday at the same time, school-wide. And that way our staff and students know that this is a priority. They have to know these skills, these facts for the long term. And so that has been, we're already starting to see successes on that. We also have our math data, of course, isn't what we want it to be. So our instructional coach is going to do a math club where it's fun. Hopefully the students don't even realize that they're learning because it's going to be game-based, but where they're also focused on learning our skills. And that's going to go with our schedule. So in our schedule, we have an intervention time that is embedded. And so during that intervention time, we really try to group our students and say, what do they need to work on? Where have they not mastered? Let's all take this time. It's a school-wide intervention time to work in the small group specifically where the skills of the students that they need.
So, and just speaking on the schedule, we knew coming in, because of how crazy the last couple of years have been, that we needed to be intentional with our time and do what's best for kids. And moving forward with the Literacy First program, we were able to sit down and design a schedule where we have our special teachers being co-teachers who are also trained within the Literacy First program. All our assistants are also trained within that program so that it's very consistent. But we were able to line out the schedule where K through 3 have support staff when they're doing small group centers for phonics, which is huge just for the logistics of the centers, because that is new to the teachers, and that everyone has been trained the same. So we're really happy with that. And just to touch on this a little bit, what about the Fact Fluency Fridays, another thing we started doing with that, that kind of I stole from Literacy First, is that, so with Literacy First Continuing, you track all that. So when they go to the next grade level, you know exactly where they are. We're doing the same thing with math facts. So if they're in 3rd grade and they're on their, ×4s, and that's where they get, well, we know when they pick up in 4th grade, they're on their ×4s, and that's where we're starting. We're not trying to work backwards. So it's just very intentional when we do those things.
The next couple of bullets that we have are some fun things to get our kiddos excited to get back into the building. And we hope that this helps with the attendance. And but are the family involvement events. We are planning a towel painting parties where we take the towel from the ceiling and have families come in and paint. We ordered some stencils, a bulldog type stencil, so that they can do that. We're going to have a family reading night. We're also wanting to do, we've had our 4th grade's gone to UK to visit. Our 3rd grade is doing that on November 11th. We just have got to get our kiddos back out into the community. We're going to see a play in December. We have 2 groups that are going to sit to the zoo and a pumpkin patch. So I'm really, really excited about that. But then also we want to have events during the school day to get students excited about working hard. In December, if they meet their goal on iReady, then they get to take Mr. Ray now to the wall and see if we stick. And then we've been.
I will always love that one. Absolutely love it.
And we're just trying to get back to some normalcy. We've done these things in the past, and I like making memories for kids, and I know that sticks with kids. So.
But we'll do a dunking booth. We've done the dunking booth before, but March was not the month to do the dunking booth, but we did it. It was really
It was chilly.
So we just are trying to come up with some really, really fun things to do to get kids to want to be back in the building and to invite our families.
For the month of October, we're doing attendance incentive for kids, and we're doing a staff versus student dodgeball game at the end of October. So if they're attending, they get tickets, and then they have the opportunity to play against staff. So we did this a couple times last year, and it was a hit. So I'm looking forward to it.
Of course, with our attendance, we'll also do our required meetings that we always do every year. We'll continue calling parents to check on students and then doing home visits. So
thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Well, that's it. I want to thank all of the principals and the board. And you can see their passion. They're the ones out there, and you can see it. I hope you saw it in that, and some went longer, but I think it was important for them to have that time to showcase this. So thank you.
since we've got you all in the room, a little birdie reminded me that it is, that October is National Principal Month. And so I want to take just a second to recognize all of you all and say thank you. So to Ms. Angie Akers and Mr. Matthew Reed, Mr. Paul Terrell, Mr. Daniel Mattingly, Mr. Benji Mattingly, thank you all on our elementary school levels. Ms. Paige Mattingly, let's get all those Mattinglys together. And pass by our thanks along to Ms. Osborne as well. Thank you to Ms. Sarah Brady. If you'll extend our gratitude to Ms. Bevan, that would be wonderful. Mr. Robbie Peterson, Ms. Haley Evans, Ms. Paul Curtis, please let her know how much we appreciate her and everything that you all do, as well as Ms. Holly Cox and Ms. Christina McRae. We could not do what we do in this district without you all serving as leaders in our buildings. And so we thank you for the time that you have put in with our students and their families. Since we are entering hour 3, I think we'll take a 5-minute restroom break before we get John in there. But just really, really quickly go to the restroom and we'll be right back. Tackle the rest of the day. I'm gonna start leaving. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so returning to item 4E, our NTI update.
I have drafted a letter, for NTI for parents to know what would be expected of them in the event that we do call for an NTI day. This is no inclination that we're getting ready to call one, it's just us being proactive as a district. So the letter, you have the attachment, it just walks parents step by step what is going to be expected of them to be completed during the time that an NTI day is called. Primary grades K through 5 will complete 30 minutes of I-ready math, 30 minutes of I-ready reading. 5th graders will do social studies, and 4th graders science only. And then there'll be a choice board for a special. For secondary, 6 through 12, odd periods will begin on odd days. So NTI day number 1 will be periods 1, 3, and 5. And then even numbers will be on day 2 for 2nd, 4th, and 6th. It is not intended for us to be able to do a full day's work just because we know there's multiple children in the home when it comes to Wi-Fi, different grade levels. So that is just to keep it simple as possible. We heard principals talk about I-ready, so this will keep them on their path, work towards their goals. But when it comes to the actual work, most typically secondary will utilize Google Classroom, a playlist. So the steps walk you through what the icons look like, because I know there are, most times kids aren't home with parents, it may be a babysitter, sibling, whatever. And then for our primary, they log in through Clever. And so all the steps are there as well. And this letter will come home Monday as well for parents, just so they know. I've worked with Mr. Simpson, our communications director, about having a QR code that you can scan and enlarge it, because that's pretty small, just to keep it on a 1-pager, but also it'll be posted on our district webpage as well. So in no way are we calling for one anytime soon, but in the event that we need to, we're being proactive and they know what to expect. We got forthcoming.
Any questions on that? Okay. Next is our attendance and enrollment report.
Okay. Good to see y'all tonight. At the risk of graph fatigue, I'll give you the breakdown we have so far. We've got our enrollment numbers as of today. So we're showing it 235 now, Cal, 471 in Glasscock, 339 at Lebanon Elementary, 424 at West Marion. That's with the preschool numbers. And then our middle schools are at 491 each, which is pretty interesting, and 646 at the high school. 157 in the K through 12 bracket at the UC Spalding Academy. So we got a total of 3,254 kids. As you can see, we're still a little low from what we were last year, or actually that's 18-19, which was our last normal year. So we can go to the next slide, please. And so our this is our attendance monthly, so you can see August and September once again compared to 18-19, and quite a bit below what we normally would be in a normal year. We're still seeing the effects of what we've been through in the last month. And then the October numbers, of course, are through just today, which is just 3 days. Next slide. And you have your year to date, which shows us where we are per school. As far as how we're doing so far for the year.
once again, it's still in the red. And the last slide will show the daily slice of it from since the last meeting. We actually got 2 days on there, they're green. I was just thrilled beyond measure when I saw that. So that's comparing, of course, to 18-19. But you know, it is still a daily struggle as far as student attendance. So also included on there, I've got you a COVID report that pull that up. These are current positives. You can see our total enrollment, then your current total positives, so we get 11 currently as of today. And this is I took this at the end of the day, so that would include anybody that was included today. Your year-to-date positive numbers are 265. That's 265 positive cases that we've had all year. The current COVID exposure count is 30. Now, those are not all necessarily exposure at school, they're just exposures that been reported to us. And then you've got your year-to-date exposure count, which is 1280, which impacted is basically the sum of the current numbers, and then the percentage of what we have currently. So it's looking better. And you'll see why on the next slide. We are on the downhill slide and continue to drop. Hopefully we won't see any change from fall break, and it'll just continue in that pattern. But I think that fits with what we're seeing everywhere nationwide. It's taking a good dive. So hopefully before long, we might be able to be back to where we were when we were in the summer. So I mean, I'm hopeful we'll see that. Any questions about any of that information? Okay, thanks.
Okay, item number 5 on the agenda, I need a motion to consider approval of remote learning days.
I make a motion to consider approval of remote learning days.
Let's see, Tim or Courtney, maybe do y'all want to just explain the difference quickly about between NTI and remote instruction, just so everybody understands?
The remote learning days were added, and they are not a district-wide feature. You can only do them per school or even per classroom. We have 20 of those that is offered to the districts that we can use between now and December 31st. But they have to be approved by the board before we'd be able to use it. So just basically give us another tool that we can use in the event that we have a spike somewhere. We could close a particular classroom or close a school and not affect the rest of the district. But it's not for a district-wide virtual shutdown. We can only do it at maximum to one school.
And if we simply close one classroom, that takes one whole day.
That takes one of those 20 days, correct. Each time we use it takes a day. Yes.
If you close multiple classrooms, is it still considered one day?
It'd still be the day, if it's on the same day. If it's on different days, then it's different days.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. I need a motion on item 5B.
Make a motion to consider approval of COVID-19 incentive match.
Do we want to talk about this?
Talk about that? All right, so a lot of the surrounding districts, and we're starting to see, is that we know that the state had 8.8 million to give for vaccine incentives. KBE said they were going to give every staff member $100. What we're seeing is there's some districts around that are matching that. So they're matching it to be another 100. So this can be an ESSER's funding source. I have looked, Ruben and I have looked around and said, is this, how do you do it? What are the codes? I can tell you that it would probably be up to a max for this district at about $60,000 if everybody got vaccinated and that we gave everybody that $100. But that is gross. I should mention that it wouldn't be like a $200 check necessarily. That is like before taxes. There are some things that will be taken out of that money, but finance, Scott and I have worked together, and December 15th paycheck is when that would necessarily be seen for staff, which is always a nice time right around the Christmas. But in order for this to happen, it follows the same rules that we have shared in the past, is that you must have your second dose by December 1st. And if you did not get your vaccine with us, when we had certain clinics, Ms. Becky Clark up here is collecting a certificate. You can hand that to her. She has that in a confidential file. And then that is what will be used so that we can say yes or no. You must, it is very imperative, because we are giving that money out on the 15th, that anybody prior to December 1st, that they provide us with that documentation, because that is a one-time, sorry, Scott, I mean, the one-time.
So we can only get reimbursed from the state one time. So once we do it one round, we get our draw, we're done.
So, any questions?
So
Any,
we're asking for, we're approving $100 is what you're saying?
whatever the, yeah, that's what we are seeing around, is that there's like, people are matching the 100 that KDE is providing, that districts are matching, some are matching more, I will say that, but majority is matching that 100. So if that's what the board would like, I will reopen ESSER's funding mechanism. If you approve this, and then we will make sure that that happens. It will come out of, I know we've talked a lot about, 80%, we have to spend 20% on learning loss in ESSER 3 funding. So we would take it out of the other pot, which probably would be lower maybe technology a little bit, or we bumped up a lot of that construction 5 million, 4 million, which, so there's some leeway at that price. We're not concerned if that's what the board would like.
And the whole incentive of the program is to find out where we are, who's back to.
From what I have heard, it's just to incentivize, potentially hoping if people are on the fence, maybe that they're thinking about it or they want it, but just kind of having that extra bonus. It's really just matching what KDE, we're just matching the kind of what they have shared, the districts are saying, okay. So if you are, have your second shot or your first shot, if you do Johnson & Johnson, as long as you have that by December 1, I guess it is in hopes that, people aren't quarantined or sent home, so that we have a large majority of people that are vaccinated, so that it doesn't impact in-person instruction. But this particularly is just about that match. If the board would like to do that match, I just would need to know, because that's not something that we have discussed.
And the vaccine incentive program is not unique to school districts. It's something that a lot of healthcare organizations are providing. So, and the data collection piece of it is a bonus in my mind, because it gives us an idea of what percentage of our staff are vaccinated, so that we can kind of understand a little bit better how quarantine might hit us if we see a spike.
And if the board does approve this, we will do communication again to push that back out there to make sure that people understand the rules of it. And so that if that's something that they choose to get vaccinated, that, they do get that benefit. So we will make sure we communicate Mr. Simpson if that's the one chooses.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? I need a motion on item 5C. I'll make a motion to consider approval for substitute COVID-19 incentive program. Would anyone like to talk a little bit about what this is?
Well, one of the pieces is the substitute teaching, and you may only get, that $100 from KDE. So our district is recommending that, somebody who works with us for 10 days, they would then sign an affidavit, which is a part that has been out there, that they're getting it from us, because KDE needs to know who to send the money to. So I think the recommendation for us, past the board, is that we feel like you kind of have to work for us for 10 days. That we probably know that person. If they haven't worked for 10 days, we probably don't know them as well, but, maybe set up and things like that. So that is several other districts are implementing that same kind of 10-day rule now, that people can choose where to go, but somebody might choose a district that's matching too. So we'll see what that looks like. But that's kind of the, Scott, do you have anything you want to add?
That's correct. So, they substitute in one district, they can drop them as part of legal affidavits, and they're only getting 4 here, 4 from another district. So, that incentivizes, hopefully they'll encourage our substitutes. Somebody's supposed to team, they'll get a few days in, but now be some parts to help that as well.
Other questions? All in favor? Aye. I need a motion on item 5D, and I need a name of this one.
I'll make a motion to consider approval of the 2021-22 calendar committee board member representative, Debbie Spaulding.
Hey, Debbie.
It's gonna be the 22-23.
Oh,
This one is replacing Mr. Eubank because he served on that committee, so we know that there's not necessarily a lot to be done at this point, hopefully, but we want to fill that spot just in case. Any other questions? Okay, all in favor? Aye. I need a motion on item 5E.
I make a motion to consider approval of declaration of critical shortage area.
I'll second. Second.
That means,
And this just allows us some flexibility in positions and declaring a shortage for that specific area. So, all in favor? Aye. I need a motion on item 5F. And we
make a motion to consider approval to appoint new board member, Terry Gibbs.
Questions or comments here?
No, we appreciate the people that did apply, and it's, we look forward to working with Terry. We know he's been a staple in the community for a long time, so I think it'll be great.
Yeah, it's always an interesting role to step into in the middle of something. So again, I'll echo what Mr. Lee said and just express our gratitude to our applicants for this role. We know that whoever is appointed here is going to enter into a very rewarding role, but also a very challenging role. So all in favor of Mr. Mills being appointed as our new board member? Aye. Any opposed? Okay, welcome, Mr. Mills, to the Marion County Board of Education. Okay, I need a motion on item 6A.
Make a motion to consider approval of the interim superintendent contract.
I'll second. Any questions here? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Need a motion on item 6B.
Motion to approve the Dawn contract.
And I can talk a little bit about this one. We have a lot of generous and kind individuals and organizations and companies in our community that donate funds to us for specific projects. And so we felt it best to have a template to recognize and kind of solidify those agreements where they're giving gifts and they're getting maybe sponsorship recognition in return. I know that we've got a couple of gifts on the horizon that this will be beneficial just to make sure that those get recognized appropriately and that those organizations get the sponsorship benefits they were promised. So any questions on this one? Okay. All in favor? Aye. I need a motion on item 6C.
I make a motion to consider approval of Otis Data Platform annual subscription for fiscal year 21 in the amount of $25,296.
And we heard a lot about Otis tonight, just our data platform pulling stuff together, right?
Right, and with this piece, this 25,000 actually is an add-on that they provided. It's actually two add-ons, but we have that data analytics piece that you saw there that we're diving into. This piece is also about common assessments for the teachers to be able to build these. We paid a little extra to have the bank so that the teachers and the instructional coaches could build the data, and then it will also help to move from grading on a A/B schedule to a master, preparing things like that. So, and then there's also a plan section so that students can be tracked over time. Whatever group you were in, it's going to continue to track them, what the interventions were, what their scores are. So it was an add-on that I felt, and it is being paid out of the ESSER's funding, so it's not a board cost because the board did pick up the analytics piece, but this is the piece where students can get in there and identify.
I have a question.
Yes.
Can this be carried over, say a student comes from Taylor County or they're part of it, if they have this program also?
As soon, if they have this, right now, we and Marshall County are the only two counties in Kentucky that utilize this program. It's gonna get out, but we were first. I want to say we were first, but what happens is that it syncs with Infinite Campus. So as soon as that student would come in and then their scores and everything that would be there, we can upload it. We can do manual uploads. Their tech and response team is fabulous. Professional learning. We have scaffolded this in with principals and instructional coaches. And so it's the teacher part now. Like we want to give teachers the ability that they don't have to spend all that time making tests. And then students will be able to get into this program as well to see how I'm doing. But we do want to know if you went from Glasscock to LES, or if you're moving from LES to the middle school, that third plans part, which we're just kind of slow and steady, is going to allow that learning and understanding of a student's whole thing be there in that one platform, because we have a lot of stuff. But all those things you saw the principals talking about, they can go to that one program and they can find, right down to the student. They can see the teachers, compare teachers. I mean, it's a lot. So the 25,000 right now is the add-on of these other two things, because we already paid for that other piece already. But and we'll see how it goes. So that's what that part is. Any other questions?
We anticipate this being a gap to help bridge, being a tool to help bridge the gap.
Definitely, because if we do want to move to more standards-based grading in that common assessment and move away from a B to master this, need to move on to that. And also that treasure I keep talking about, I need them to tell me and use data to tell me, yes, keep this program, or this is not working for us. And without fidelity, without really looking at data to make decisions, we're just going to keep spinning. And we have areas of concern. Our reading and math is not where we want it to be. So, but if we don't look at that data, and if we have to go to 5 different platforms about one kid, well, why wouldn't I go to Otis and look at Joe? Here's how Joe scored, and I can do, here's how he scored here. It's really that piece. And I do think the piece that we added for the 25,000 is that common assessment piece for teachers. It's going to provide them with the ability to, get those tests there and get back that information quickly. No hand scoring, it'll be there.
Yeah, I think the important piece in my mind, and it's all important, but the treasure piece, I think if we're going to invest in certain resources, we have to be able to make sure that they're working effectively, that they're benefiting us, because that return on investment is a big thing. And so I, stress that to the administrators is who, if it's not working, don't be afraid to say it's not working, so we can stop paying for that resource and maybe look at something that's more effective.
And several of you we know where we did the color coded charts, and how long that took? Like, that's a long time. For somebody plugging in that data and filling in this is, I could probably go, I feel like I work there sometimes when I talk about it, but it is just so good. It's just, the ability to quickly, like if I click on a student and I can make a group, that took me 30 seconds, where it would have took me 14 sheets and probably 18 Post-its to get to that. So.
And two of the schools have been very proactive about that transition year, already projecting what those 5th graders scored, what do they need to prepare for the incoming 6th graders. So they have been very proactive, already ahead of time.
Great. Other questions on 6D? Thank you. All in favor? Aye. I need a motion on item 6D.
Make a motion to consider approval of field trips.
Second. Any questions here? All in favor?
Aye.
I need a motion on item 6E.
Okay. I make a motion to consider approval to declare 2 cafeteria items as surplus.
I'll second. Questions here? Okay, all in favor? Aye. I need a motion on item 6F.
Make a motion to consider approval of child and adult care food program applications, 3rd meal program.
Great, questions here?
You want to talk a little bit about it?
That is our separate meal program. We really didn't do a whole lot with that last year because that's one, we've got to have a qualifying program after school, after school hours. It can be anytime after school hours. And then we can feed any student in the building, so the high school has really utilized that a lot in the last several years. They'll have ESS going on, but then because ESS is going on, every athlete in the building, every FFA kid, every ROTC can eat. We got to get those qualified programs back going. I don't know how many we'll use this year, just because of COVID and what all we've got going on. But I am gonna go on to make the application, just so we can utilize it if we got the principals want to do that.
Perfect. Other questions? Okay. All in favor? Aye. I need a motion on items 6A through J.
Make a motion to consider student learning support consent items.
Yep. Ms. Clark, since you have been here all this time, please tell us about your application for the continuation grant for the 21st Century Learning Center.
It's been a pleasure. I'm serious. I'm a nerd here. I love this. So I am so thrilled and honored to be the 21st Century Coordinator. And what I do when I get into the role, I get into the role. So I picked up that grant application and I kind of read it once, read it twice, outlined everything that I need to try to apply to. So we're gonna apply to this every year, right? So what this application is the Cycle 19 KDE grant for 21st Century. And you might be able to tell me what it's like about it. But so what we're doing is we're applying for a $100,000 opportunity to improve, just exactly what you were talking about, improve our test scores of our students, improve their social and emotional learning. I'm thrilled. So that's what this process is about. I will say, I think it's a wonderful opportunity, and I'm ready to go on one call. But there are some changes from what we've done in the past. And I only can speak from an experience as a parent on what we've done, but there's some wording that mentions that we can't do groups that have Monday, Wednesday, Tuesday, Thursday. And from my understanding, that is because there is concern about the equitability of it. If there's a group that has this teacher or a group that has this, day, maybe they have a day off, they don't have the same spread. Another thing is we have two schools grouped together. We can't unmerge those schools, but when I did the training on the grant, they said that it's really probably best for one school to apply individually, because what they ask for is that there is a site, a 21st Century site at each school that's being served by the grant. So that also includes certification for certified teachers, and the coordinator needs to be present. So those are kind of the main, I think, points of discussion that you might want to be concerned about. But other than that, I'm ready to get down and get dirty.
Awesome. Well, we're always grateful for our district staff who will go out there and look for opportunities to bring revenue and funding in for these programs. Makes our job a little bit easier when you all do that. And we've had a great success rate in applying for grants. So keep up the great work. Keep doing those things. And we will continue to enjoy the benefits of the work that you do. So thank you for being here. Any questions on any of that? Okay, so we'll put that maybe on the next one. Yeah. Okay, so any other questions on items 7A through J? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Item 8 is acknowledgement of personnel actions. So acknowledged, and item 9 is adjournment. I need a motion, please.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you all so much.
You're too late.
That's the boy.
No, that's-
I'm just joking.